The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars, planets, and civilizations that had risen and fallen across millions of years. Empires stretched across thousands of light years, and ancient councils debated laws that affected entire sectors. Trade routes glowed like veins of light through the dark. Yet among all of this motion, one region stood out as a shadow. It was a place all travelers knew but no traveler entered. It was called human space. There was no official law that forbade entry. No empire claimed authority there, and no council passed decrees against it. Yet still, no ship crossed into that silent region of the stars. Captains would change course long before they reached its border. Merchants would draw routes around it, even if it meant adding years to their journey. Explorers, who were usually known for bravery, would refuse to map it. When asked why, most simply said, because no one returns. For generations, this mystery had endured. Old star maps showed paths into human space, but the lines always ended abruptly. Records told of fleets that had entered, fleets of many species, with great ships filled with supplies, science crews, and warriors. None of those fleets ever sent a signal back. Not a single vessel returned. To many younger races, it became a story, a legend told at spaceports. But for the older races, who remembered the last great expeditions, it was not a story. It was a warning. There were many theories. Some said that human space was cursed. Others whispered that humanity had destroyed itself and left behind traps that still hunted trespassers. Some even believed that black holes or hidden storms of radiation swallowed ships whole. But the truth was simpler and far more frightening. Nobody knew. And the galaxy had learned that ignorance, in this case, was safer than discovery. On the edge of human space, near the borders where safe trade lanes bent away, there were always quiet outposts. These outposts watched the border from a distance. They did not attempt to cross, only to observe. At times, travelers claimed to see shapes moving among the stars inside that dark space. Large objects, too vast to be ships, drifting without light. Others swore they heard signals on their comms, faint voices whispering warnings. Most dismissed these reports as tricks of the mind. Yet even the bravest captains admitted that something about the border made their skin tighten and their hearts race. The silence was not empty. It was heavy, almost alive. At one such outpost, a young officer named Ryan stood watch. He was from a species known for curiosity and energy, and he often stared across the border with wide eyes. To him, it was unfair. The galaxy had traveled far and conquered much. How could one region remain forbidden? It is only space, he told himself. Only stars, only planets. There is nothing special about it. His commander, an older officer named Darren, shook his head when Ryan spoke of this. You do not understand. I was alive when the last fleet entered. I saw them depart with banners and pride. They spoke of bringing knowledge back for the whole galaxy. I saw their ships vanish into that silence. And I saw the years pass without a single return. You may call it only space, but I call it death. Ryan frowned at that. But how can space kill? Space is dangerous, yes, but we travel through it every day. Why only there? The old officer turned away from the viewing glass, his face grim. Because those were not ordinary humans. They were something else. Something we do not want to wake. Such talk was common along the border. Stories of human strength, human rage, and human silence spread from one outpost to another. Some said that humans had once fought the galaxy itself and won. Others believed that humans had withdrawn willingly, sealing their territory with a warning no one dared test. And yet, despite all this fear, the border remained unguarded. There were no fleets patrolling its edge, no stations armed to the teeth. None were needed. Fear itself was the guard. Every captain knew that crossing meant never returning. But the silence was beginning to draw attention once again. Younger species, hungry for glory, whispered about entering human space to prove themselves. Ambitious leaders in the council muttered that the galaxy had grown too cautious, too afraid of an old legend. The council had no recent evidence that humans even existed anymore. Perhaps, they reasoned, humanity was gone. Perhaps their silence was not a warning, but simply absence. Yet the border remained, stretching across the stars like a scar. It waited patiently, as if listening, as if aware of the whispers spreading among the stars. And those who stood watch felt it deep in their bones that human space was not empty. It was not abandoned. It was waiting. And when the galaxy finally stepped inside once more, it would learn why no species entered human space. The Galactic Council gathered in the Great Hall of Stars, a chamber so large that whole cruisers could have floated within it. Delegates from hundreds of species sat in rising tiers, their forms strange and varied. Some were tall and feathered, some small and scaled, others with shimmering skin that shifted color as they spoke. The hall was filled with voices, yet all of them circled around one subject: the mystery of human space. For centuries, the council had ignored it. The older members had lived through the last disastrous expeditions, and their memories kept the chamber cautious. But a new age had dawned. Younger races, fresh with ambition, had gained seats of power. Their voices were loud, confident, and filled with disbelief at old warnings. A delegate named Farron, representing a rising trade empire, stood before the assembly. His voice was sharp and clear, carrying across the vast hall. We waste time circling this shadow in the galaxy. Generations have lived in fear of a silence. But tell me, honored council, has anyone seen a human in our lifetimes? Has anyone spoken with them? Their silence means only one thing. They are gone. Their space is unclaimed. An unclaimed space belongs to those with courage to take it. Murmurs filled the hall. Many of the younger delegates nodded. They thought of rich new planets, untouched resources, and routes that would cut trade journeys in half. But others shifted uneasily. An elder delegate named Sarin rose slowly. His body was heavy with age, his voice deep and steady. You speak of courage, Farron. But I speak of memory. I was young when the last fleet entered human space. Thousands of ships crossed the border. Not one came back. Not one. Shall we forget this so easily? Farron did not step back. And I ask you, Elder, how many lifetimes has it been? If humans had such power, why have they not shown themselves again? Why have they remained hidden? If they wished to rule, they would rule. If they wished to destroy, we would all be gone. But nothing has happened. The silence is proof not of power, but of absence. The chamber grew louder, voices clashing like storm waves. Some shouted for boldness, others for restraint. It was not the first time the subject had been raised, but this time the pressure was stronger. Trade routes were strained, resources stretched thin, and younger empires hungered for expansion. At last, the high speaker of the council struck the staff of order upon the floor. The sound echoed like thunder, silencing the hall. Enough, the speaker declared. The council will not end this session in endless argument. We will decide with action. There will be an expedition. It will not be a small one, nor a single species pride. It will be a joint fleet, carrying the strength of the council itself. Its mission will be discovery, not war. If humans remain, we will speak with them. If they are gone, we will learn the truth. The matter is settled. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Even those who had argued for boldness felt a weight settle in their hearts. It was one thing to speak of human space from the safety of the Great Hall, another to actually send ships across that silent border. Over the next months, preparations began. A grand fleet was assembled, one ship from each of the major empires, and many more from the lesser ones. In total, more than 300 vessels gathered. They varied in shape and size: sleek cruisers, heavy warships, research craft filled with instruments. Each carried warriors, scientists, and envoys. Each species sent their best, though not all volunteered willingly. On the deck of a large observation ship, Commander Lauren of the ZYRN race stood in silence. His people had always been explorers, seekers of new knowledge, and he felt both excitement and dread. His second officer, a calm figure named Rila, approached. "The fleet gathers, Commander. Soon we cross the border." Lauren nodded, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. "Yes. But remember this. The Council calls this a mission of discovery. Yet every whisper from the old archives calls it something else. A warning. We are not the first to try." Rila frowned. "Do you believe the humans still live? After so long?" The commander's face darkened. "I do not know. But I have seen enough in my years to know that silence can be more dangerous than noise. And their silence has lasted too long." Elsewhere in the fleet, opinions differed. Young captains spoke eagerly of glory. Scientists dreamed of worlds untouched. Traders imagined rich new lanes. But not all shared such bright thoughts. Some crew members whispered of cursed stars, of eyes in the dark, of ancient power waiting unseen. On the day of departure, the fleet assembled in formation. Their hulls gleamed under the light of nearby suns, banners of many worlds fluttering across calm channels. The Council broadcast the launch across the galaxy, promising a new age of courage. Citizens in countless systems cheered, believing their leaders were about to uncover the greatest mystery of the age. But on the quiet edges of space, near lonely outposts and forgotten stations, older beings watched in silence. They had seen fleets depart before. They knew what the younger races did not. And though they said nothing, their thoughts were the same. The Council had gambled. And when one gambles with human space, the price is never small. The fleet moved like a river of light through the stars. 300 ships, each with different shapes and banners, all heading toward the same border. From afar, they seemed unstoppable, a symbol of unity and strength. But inside the ships, tension grew heavier with each passing hour. The border of human space was not marked by walls or defenses. It was simply a line, invisible to the eye but deeply felt in the heart. The stars beyond looked the same, yet every crew member knew that crossing meant leaving safety behind. On the flagship Vera, Commander Lauren stood in the central chamber, surrounded by displays of stars and data streams. His officers waited for his command. Around them, the other ships signaled readiness. A quiet voice broke the silence. "Commander, all systems are prepared. The fleet awaits your order to cross," said Rila, his second officer. Lauren's eyes stayed fixed on the border. He could not see it, yet he felt its weight pressing on him. "Transmit to all ships," he said slowly. "The time has come. We cross together." The signal spread. Engines roared, and the fleet pressed forward. One by one, their bows slipped past the unseen line, into human space. At first, nothing changed. The stars still shone. Planets drifted in silence. Crew members let out nervous laughter, as if relieved. But then the changes began. The first to notice were the navigators. Their maps shifted, small errors creeping into their star charts. Distances measured differently than before, as though space itself bent slightly. Some dismissed it as minor error, but others grew uneasy. Soon after, the comm officers reported strange static. It was not the usual background noise of space but something sharper, like whispers caught between channels. No words could be understood, but the sound carried an unsettling rhythm, almost like breathing. On the third day inside the border, the fleet encountered the first object. It was a satellite, ancient in design, drifting silently through space. Its surface was marked with scars of age, yet it still broadcasted faint signals. The Vero locked onto them, and the message was decoded. It was simple. It repeated in dozens of languages, some ancient, some modern. It said, "Turn back." The message repeated endlessly, without pause. It carried no anger, no threat, only warning. The younger officers laughed nervously. "It must be centuries old," one said. "A relic of a forgotten war." But Lauren's face remained hard. "Relics do not keep working for centuries without repair. Someone maintains this. Someone wants us to hear this." The fleet continued forward. More satellites appeared, scattered like lonely guardians, each carrying the same message. "Turn back." The warning grew harder to ignore. Then, on the fifth day, the first disappearance occurred. A scout ship named Orel broke formation to scan a small moon. Its captain reported strange energy readings. The fleet tracked the ship's movement as it descended into orbit. Then, without warning, every signal from the Orel vanished. No explosion. No distress call. No wreckage. The ship was simply gone. Panic spread through the fleet. The council commanders argued over channels, some demanding a retreat, others calling it an accident. Lauren listened to them all, but deep inside he knew. The silence had taken its first claim. Rila approached him quietly. "Commander, if we lose more ships, the fleet will collapse into fear. We must give them hope." Lauren nodded. "Then we press forward. We find something to show them this mission has meaning." The fleet obeyed. Their path led them deeper, and soon, a world came into view. It was the first human planet they had seen. The crews gathered at their viewing ports, staring at the world in awe. It was alive. Vast forests stretched across continents. Oceans glittered blue beneath the sunlight. Great cities rose from the land, towers and structures reaching to the sky. But something was wrong. The cities were whole, their power still active, lights glowing faintly. Yet no ships flew in the skies. No movement stirred in the streets. It was as if the people had simply vanished, leaving their world untouched. The scientists on board rushed with excitement. "This is proof. The humans are gone. They left their cities behind, and we can claim their knowledge." But others grew cold with dread. The cities did not look abandoned. They looked prepared, waiting, as if their builders had stepped away only for a moment. On the Vera, Commander Lauren stood in silence as the planet filled the screen. He remembered the satellites, the message that had echoed again and again. "Turn back." Now the message seemed clearer than ever. The humans were not gone. They were not destroyed. They had chosen to leave their worlds waiting. And something in that silence, something unseen, was watching the intruders step where no one was meant to walk. The fleet had taken its first step inside. And already, the shadow of fear was beginning to spread among them. The fleet entered orbit above the human planet, and silence filled every ship. No one expected to see such a sight. From above, the world was alive, green and blue, with rivers and mountains shining under the sun. The cities below stood tall and unbroken, their towers still lit by steady power. It was as if the world had been waiting. On the flagship Vera, Commander Lauren and his officers watched the surface with heavy eyes. The younger officers whispered with excitement. "Look at the size of those towers. Their design is ancient, but the power is still running. Think of the technology we could learn from this." Rila, standing at Lauren's side, shook her head. "It feels wrong. Cities do not remain alive for centuries without caretakers. Someone watches this place. Or something." The council commanders opened channels across the fleet. Some pushed for immediate landing parties. Others argued for caution. At last, the majority agreed. A group of ships would send scouts down. Scientists and soldiers together would step onto the surface. The first landers descended through the sky. Dust rose as they touched down near one of the great cities. Their reports came quickly. Streets stretched wide, paved with smooth stone and metal. Towers rose above them, doors open, lights humming. Yet not a single human walked among them. One soldier's voice trembled as he spoke over the comm. It is like they vanished in an instant. Meals sit on tables. Tools lie on work benches. But there are no bodies, no signs of struggle. Only emptiness. The scientists, however, were thrilled. They rushed into buildings, scanning walls and devices. The systems are advanced, one said. Their energy sources still function, though we do not understand how. If humans abandoned these cities, they left everything behind. The soldiers were less eager. Many reported strange feelings, as though eyes followed them in every street. At night, shadows seemed to move, though no source of life could be found. Every sound echoed too long, as if the city itself listened. On the Vera, Lauren listened carefully to every report. His officers debated around him. This is proof, one said. The humans are gone. We should bring more ships, harvest their technology, and claim these worlds for the Council. Another officer disagreed. Commander, the warnings are too many. The satellites, the lost ship, the silence in these cities. It is not natural. I fear this is a trap. Lauren raised a hand to silence them. His eyes remained fixed on the glowing towers of the planet below. The humans did not vanish. No people vanish so cleanly. They left this world waiting, like a door left open. The question is, for whom? That night, the landers sent new transmissions. Their sensors picked up faint signals across the city. Strange energy pulses, not from the towers but from deep beneath the ground. Teams followed the readings and discovered great structures buried below, machines of unknown design, humming with silent power. A scientist whispered into the comm, "These machines are still running. They spread energy across the planet, maybe across all human space. It is not abandoned. It is maintained." The soldiers grew restless. Their captains requested to pull back, but the council commanders refused. "Press deeper," they ordered. "We must know more. Humanity left something here. And we must claim it before others do." Days passed. The scientists continued their research, unlocking fragments of human design. But with each new discovery came unease. A translator uncovered old markings carved into stone near one of the towers. The words were simple, "We wait." When this was shown on the Vera, the chamber fell silent. Rilla looked at Lauren with troubled eyes. They did not die. They did not lose. They chose this. And they are not finished. The following morning, another lander went silent. Its crew had been exploring near the edge of the city when all signals ceased. Search teams found no wreckage, no sign of struggle. The lander itself was gone, as though erased. Fear began to spread through the fleet. Crew members whispered in the halls. Some refused to leave their stations, certain that unseen eyes watched them from the stars. Others demanded retreat. But the council commanders, prideful and unwilling to admit fear, pressed on. They ordered more ships to land, more teams to spread across the surface. Commander Lauren watched this with a heavy heart. He understood what the council did not. "Every step we take here is a step into their design," he said quietly to Rilla. "The humans are not gone. They are teaching us. And the lesson is fear." As the fleet continued its mission, the truth became clearer. Human worlds were not ruins. They were traps of silence, carefully left behind. They waited with purpose. And the intruders had walked willingly into the waiting jaws. The forgotten world was not forgotten at all. It was a reminder. And soon, the galaxy would understand what it had disturbed. The fleet remained in orbit above the silent human world, but the longer they stayed, the heavier the air seemed to grow inside every ship. At first, the crews had spoken with excitement about the strange towers, the endless energy, and the chance to unlock human secrets. Now their voices were hushed, their eyes restless, and their movements slow. Fear had begun to creep through the corridors like a shadow no one could chase away. The change began with the transmissions. At first, the fleet only heard static. But then patterns emerged, faint at first, then stronger. Voices began to slip through the noise, not in one tongue but in many. Some were in ancient languages no longer spoken, others in modern dialects. Yet all of them repeated the same words. Leave while you can. The voices came without source, flooding through every channel. Scientists tried to block them, but the signals returned through different frequencies. No matter how they adjusted, the warning always found a way inside. On the flagship Vera, Rila stood at the comm station, her hands tense over the controls. We cannot stop it, Commander. The voices follow us. It is as if they know every system we use. Lauren listened in silence. The words echoed again, calm yet absolute. Leave while you can. He turned to his officers. Transmit across the fleet. Order them to remain calm. It may be nothing more than old systems set to broadcast warnings. But even he did not believe his own words. In the days that followed, fear grew stronger. Some crews refused to sleep, certain they heard footsteps outside their cabins when no one was there. Others swore they saw shapes moving on their screens, shadows drifting behind the stars. Two officers on a smaller warship fought each other in panic, claiming that voices were whispering directly into their minds. The council commanders argued over the main channel. Some demanded the fleet retreat before more ships were lost. Others accused them of weakness. This is exactly what the humans wanted, one shouted. They left tricks to frighten us away from their abandoned worlds. If we turn back now, we let old ghosts rule us. Commander Lauren joined the debate. His voice was calm but heavy. This is no trick. The humans are not gone. They are warning us. And if we do not listen, we will pay the price. But his warning was ignored. Pride weighed heavier than fear for the council leaders. The order was clear, the fleet would press deeper into human space. That night, disaster struck. A great warship named Toralan broke formation. Its captain reported strange reading signals pulsing from deep space, like a beacon. Against orders, the ship followed the signal. The fleet watched from afar as the Toralan drifted farther and farther from the group. Then, without warning, it vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. No debris. The ship was there one moment and gone the next, as though swallowed by the dark. Panic swept through the fleet. Crews shouted over comms, demanding answers. Some ships tried to break formation and flee. The council commanders ordered them back, but fear was stronger than command. For the first time, unity cracked. On the Vera, Rila stared at the empty space where the Toralan had been. How can a ship vanish without trace, she whispered. Lauren's voice was low. Because this is not space as we know it. The humans have shaped it. They control it. They are showing us what they can do. That night, the warnings grew louder. The voices on the comms no longer spoke faintly. They thundered through every channel, filling the air with unshakable weight. Leave while you can. Some crew members broke down, covering their ears, though no sound came from speakers. The words were inside their minds now, pressing deep into thought. Whole teams begged their captains to turn back. Others prayed in silence to whatever gods they believed in. Yet the council refused. Their pride held fast, even as their fleets trembled. We cannot retreat, one leader declared. If we do, the galaxy will think us weak. We must learn the truth, no matter the cost. On the Vera, Lauren stood at the viewing glass, his eyes locked on the silent human world below. He spoke quietly to Rila, so no others could hear. The council sees this as proof of weakness. But I see it as proof of strength. The humans do not need to fire a shot. They only speak, and already we are breaking. Rila's voice shook. If they are this powerful, why do they not destroy us? Lauren's expression darkened. Because they do not need to. They warned us. If we leave, we live. If we stay, we vanish. That is the power they hold. The voices continued, never resting, never fading. Leave while you can. But the council did not leave. And deep within the silence of human space, something unseen waited for the moment when the warnings would no longer be enough. The fleet had remained in human space for weeks, though time felt different there. Days and nights passed, yet the shadows of silence and warning hung heavy over every ship. Fear had settled like dust in every corridor. The crews moved cautiously, whispering among themselves, watching the stars as though the darkness might hide eyes that followed them. Commander Lauren stood on the bridge of the Vera, his hands resting lightly on the rail. His eyes scanned the stars beyond the viewing glass. They were familiar stars, yet something about them had changed. A quiet energy seemed to ripple through space itself, as if unseen forces waited just beyond perception. Rila approached him. Commander, the fleet is restless. Morale is low, and some ships are considering retreat despite orders. Lauren nodded slowly. I expected that. This is exactly what the humans intended. We have entered their space. They warned us. And now, they watch. The comm officer interrupted, her voice sharp with alarm. Commander, sensors are picking up movement ahead. Large objects, too vast to be ordinary ships, emerging from dark space. The bridge went silent. Every officer leaned forward, their eyes wide. On the screens, the shapes slowly resolved. They were massive, black vessels, unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They did not carry banners or markings, no symbols of empire. Their surfaces absorbed light, making them appear like shadows in the void. They are ships, whispered one young officer. But nothing like ours. Lauren's jaw tightened. They are humans. The council will not believe it, but this is the proof. They have been here all along. The large vessels drew closer. Their movement was precise, deliberate, and silent. No engines were visible, no sound disturbed the vacuum. Then, the humans spoke. The voice came through every channel at once. Calm, deep, and impossibly clear, it carried authority beyond comprehension. We asked for silence. We asked for peace. You would not listen. The fleet froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the council commanders, who had so boldly defied warnings, felt the weight of the words sink into their hearts. Rila looked at Lauren, her face pale. Commander, they are speaking to all of us. How can one voice reach so many ships at once? Lauren did not answer immediately. His mind worked quickly, trying to assess the situation. It does not matter how. They are here. They control this space. And they are warning us for the last time. The largest human vessel moved closer, positioning itself at the center of the fleet. Its presence seemed to warp the stars around it. Gravity readings fluctuated, and smaller ships shook as if caught in a silent storm. The humans did not attack, yet the threat they carried was absolute. A council commander shouted over the comms, his voice strained. We are a united fleet. We outnumber you. Withdraw or face our weapons. The human voice returned, calm and unwavering. Numbers mean nothing here. Leave now. No threat will come again. You have been warned. The message cut through the pride and courage of every soldier and sailor. They felt the meaning behind it. This was not a test. It was not an idle warning. This was power, unchallenged, controlled, absolute. Several ships attempted to move forward, their captains defiant. But their engines faltered. Systems failed. Communications became garbled. Gravity fields seemed to lock them in place. Every attempt to advance was stopped effortlessly. On the Vera, Lauren's eyes narrowed. They do not need to fight. They only need to exist. Their technology, their understanding of space, is beyond anything we can imagine. Every ship here is at their mercy. The humans spoke again, their words slow, deliberate, and final. No species enters human space again. There will not be another warning. The silence that followed was heavier than any battle the fleet had ever faced. Crews stared at their screens, understanding fully what it meant. Their mission had failed. The Council's gamble had been broken by the sheer presence of humanity. Rilla whispered, almost to herself, they never left. They never needed to. They only waited. Lauren turned from the viewing glass. His face was grave, but his mind was clear. This is what we should have understood from the beginning. The humans are not reckless. They are not weak. They are a force of patience, strategy, and power. And now, the galaxy will learn to fear what it cannot see. Slowly, the human vessels began to move back, retreating to positions beyond the fleet. Their presence did not vanish entirely, a sense of observation remained, a silent shadow over every ship. The fleet, paralyzed by awe and terror, had no choice but to follow the humans' unspoken orders. As the Vera and the rest of the fleet turned to retreat, every captain understood one truth. Human space was not a place to explore, to conquer, or to claim. It was a boundary drawn with absolute authority. Every warning, every lost ship, every silent city had been part of the message. And now the galaxy would understand what had always been true. The humans did not need to fight. They only needed to exist. And existence, in this space, was power beyond comprehension. The fleet had begun its slow retreat from human space, yet the weight of what they had witnessed hung over every ship like a shadow. Even the council commanders, proud and ambitious, had grown silent. Each officer, soldier, and scientist understood that nothing they had ever seen could compare to the presence of humanity in this space. On the Vera, Commander Lauren stood at the viewing glass, staring at the last of the massive human vessels as it receded into the darkness. Rilla stood beside him, her hands gripping the rail. They did not attack. Yet every ship, every system, every mind in the fleet knows they could destroy us in a moment. Lauren's eyes were steady. They never needed to attack. That is the difference. The humans wield power with patience. They do not strike out of pride or fear. They only strike when necessary, and even then, it is precise, deliberate, final. Reports from the fleet confirmed the terror that had spread. Systems that had faltered returned slowly, but crews moved like shadows of themselves, shaken, quiet, and aware. Pilots avoided the edges of the fleet, engineers whispered about forces they could not understand, and soldiers stared at the stars as if unseen eyes followed them still. Council commanders held emergency meetings on their ships. Some wanted to argue that retreat alone proved they could return stronger. Others admitted, reluctantly, that humanity was beyond challenge. No one disagreed that the humans had shown them something far greater than technology or armies. They had shown the galaxy fear itself. In the observation deck of the Vera, Lauren addressed the officers who had remained calm. We came here expecting answers. Instead, we have received understanding. Do not forget this moment. Remember it. Humanity's silence, their waiting, their warning. This is power in its truest form. It is not in conquest, not in numbers. It is in presence. Rilla shivered as she added, every warning, every lost ship, every silent city. It was all part of the lesson. And we ignored the lesson until now. The fleet passed the border, leaving human space behind. Even as they returned to familiar stars, no one celebrated. No one spoke of glory or victory. The fleet had not been defeated in battle. They had been defeated in understanding. On the council's main station, debates erupted once the fleet returned. Some claimed that humanity was extinct, that the experience was a shared hallucination or a warning broadcast by long-dead machines. Others tried to deny the lessons, arguing that the fleet had simply panicked. Lauren spoke calmly before the council. You may argue, you may deny what we saw. But the truth is simple. Human space is not empty. Humans are not gone. They are powerful beyond any measure we have known. They do not act recklessly, but they have the ability to end fleets, entire empires, without striking a blow. And they choose to wait. A young delegate, new to the council, asked nervously, but why wait? Why not conquer, why not fight? Lauren's eyes were steady. Because they do not need to. Their strength lies not in fighting but in control. They allow others to learn, to wander, to think they have options. The moment they act is the moment the galaxy understands fear. The council fell into silence. The older members nodded in agreement. They remembered the stories, the lost fleets, and the warnings that had been ignored for centuries. They realized that the galaxy had only survived because humanity had chosen patience over aggression. Rilla turned to Lauren quietly. Do you think they will ever return openly? Lauren shook his head. Not unless it is necessary. They have taught us the lesson. Silence, waiting, presence, that is all they need. Any other species that enters their space again will not leave with stories of discovery. They will leave with understanding of power they cannot imagine. Across the galaxy, word spread. Other species spoke in hushed tones, trading stories of the fleet that had dared enter human space and returned shaken. Entire sectors began to chart new courses, avoiding human worlds entirely. Trade routes bent. Explorers stopped their searches. Fear became a guide as much as curiosity had once been. On a quiet observation deck far from the council, Lauren recorded his final report. The humans are not monsters. They are not conquerors. They are something greater. They are patience. They are control. They are the standard against which all others will measure themselves. The galaxy has been warned. The silence of humans is no longer empty. It is a force. As the Vera and the fleet returned fully to known space, the message was clear. No species would ever enter human space again. The galaxy finally understood why the borders had always been respected. Humans did not need to prove themselves with war. Their presence alone was enough. And from that day forward, human space became a name spoken with awe, respect, and fear. It was a space where no ship sailed, a region where no species dared trespass, and a reminder that the most dangerous force in the galaxy did not fight, did not threaten, and did not seek attention. It waited. And the galaxy never forgot.